When it comes to how to correct your heel strike running style and learn to adopt a forefoot strike running style, one of the significant steps that can be taken is to observe the forefoot running style of most professional distance runners, as most professional distance runners, not all of them, but the vast majority of the really good professional distance runners utilize a forefoot strike landing pattern when they run. And because of the enormous success of these runners, and I'll list these runners in just a moment, I think they display an effective model that is absolutely essential and that works in terms of demonstrating the proper forefoot strike running mechanics in action. It's one thing to read about how to run forefoot and to try to apply what you've read and put it into action and put it into practice, but it certainly helps when you can watch the proper forefoot strike running style in action. And that really was the major turning point for me in my forefoot running journey, was when I watched and carefully observed the precise movements and motions of the lower leg mechanics in professional distance runners who utilize a forefoot strike landing style to improve the learning conditions for me to be better able to adopt a more proper, safer forefoot strike running style. The vast majority of long distance runners who hold world records or who win gold medals or who at least place in the top 3 positions on the world stage, the majority of these runners utilize a non-heel strike landing pattern when they run, and they tend to land on the front part of their foot or on the balls of their foot or on their forefoot. Therefore, it would make sense to learn from the professional runners. Another analogy would be, if you want to be the best sprinter, who would you want to learn from? The best sprinter in the world, right? You want to learn from the sprinter that is consistently coming in first place. You don't want to learn from the sprinter that is consistently coming in last place. That would obviously be a very unproductive choice, which is why you want to see what Usain Bolt is doing at the mechanical level in efforts to help enhance your sprinting mechanics and in efforts to help you better utilize those sprinting mechanics to help advance your overall sprinting performance. But in the context of long distance running, the same reasoning should be applied, and that many of the best distance runners in the world who are greatly outperforming the rest have a very nice, flowing, rhythmic, fluid, pristine forefoot strike running style. And we can certainly use these runners as forefoot running technique models to help us tailor, refine, and polish our forefoot running mechanics, not only to enrich our mechanics, but to enrich our running performance with a reduced susceptibility to injury, because most often all it really does take is seeing how it's done, which may help simplify the entire process of learning how to avoid heel striking during running. What helped me the most was watching endlessly YouTube videos of the following forefoot runners. Not in slow motion, but in running in real time or at normal speeds, because you get a better impression and a more clear sense of their cadence rate or their step frequency or their step rate. One of the forefoot runners that I have learned a lot from is Galen Rupp, a highly successful distance runner. And I know there is a massive cloud of suspicion in terms of doping allegations against Galen Rupp, but you can't deny the fact that he has really good forefoot strike mechanics and leg swing mechanics. That is really something that's undeniable, and it really works for him. He does incredibly well, and he looks incredibly efficient when he runs. His legs always look fresh. There's a minimal muscular strain with each step he takes. He looks like a spring. He lands predominantly squarely on his forefoot. 2 other forefoot runners that I've learned a lot from just by watching in terms of forefoot strike mechanics and leg swing mechanics are Terenish Dababa and her sister Jinzibi Dababa. Terenish Dababa recently made a successful and very impressive transition from being a 5,000 meter runner and a 10,000 meter runner to now being a marathoner, whereas her younger sister Jinzibi is crushing world records left, right, and center. And Jinzibi specializes in running distance ranging from 1,500 meters to 5,000 meters. Both runners display almost flawless forefoot strike and leg swing mechanics, and those mechanical components are a major weapon that is used effectively to go after fast race times and gold medals and world records. And I truly believe that their lower leg mechanics and their foot strike mechanics especially are real power centers that fuels their momentous success as distance runners. Bernard Lagat is another distance runner that I really want you to take a look at and see how he runs, because he really has excellent leg swing and foot strike mechanics. Paula Radcliffe, she's another marathoner who lands on her forefoot when she runs, but she tends to land near her toes. She actually has a very similar foot strike to Galen Rupp in that she lands, like I said, very close to her toes. Haile Gebrselassie, he tends to land a little bit lower on his forefoot and not as close to his toes like Paula Radcliffe and Galen Rupp, but nonetheless, Haile Gebrselassie is a non-heel strike runner, and he too has exceptional and efficient leg swing and foot strike mechanics. Other forefoot runners that I've watched and learned from are Molly Huddle, Edna Kiplagat, Tiki Jalana. All have very similar foot strike, forefoot strike, and leg swing mechanics. I truly believe that watching videos of these forefoot runners is a magic component that really enriches the forefoot running learning process and experience that may help you produce robust and durable results. So what about upper body mechanics and arm swing and arm carriage? Now, if you look at how the majority of East African runners run at the distance running level, and why I always emphasize to pay very close attention to how the East African runners run, is because they win 98% of the time, if not more. A lot of these runners have massive variations in arm swing mechanics, which is very suggestive that there really seems to be no one-size-fits-all model in terms of the most optimal arm swing mechanics during running. And more notably, there isn't a sizable body of evidence that concludes that there is in fact a one-size-fits-all arm swing that is the most efficient. So when it comes to arm swing and arm carriage for running, there really is not enough evidence to support that there is one perfect, most efficient way to swing or carry your arms during running. One thing is certain is that the top runners in the world across all distances, ranging from the shorter distances to the marathon, most of these runners do have a common theme. They have one thing in common, is that the majority of these runners don't have that hard-hitting heel strike landing pattern with a hyperextended knee at touchdown that a lot of recreational runners have. Instead, most professional runners keep both of their knees softly bent. They tend to sink down into their stride by having more of a knee bend in both knees at all times. And they typically land ahead of their arch, away from the heel, in that they land on their forefoot when they run. Another reason watching these professional runners run forefoot can be very satisfying is that the more you watch how they run, the more you may actually end up copying their running form. Now, what I mean by that is that there was an interesting study out of Yale University, which I linked below in the description box. The study found that people have a natural tendency to mimic or imitate or mirror, basically copy the physical behaviors of others. It turns out that humans have a natural tendency to copy others' emotional expressions, arm and hand gestures, as well as body posture and body movements and body motions. According to Dr. Barg, a professor of psychology at Yale University, states that humans have a natural tendency to copycat others' actions and movements, and that these copycat impulses actually appears throughout the natural world in the way schools of fish, herds of antelope, and flocks of birds coordinate group behaviors. so that they move almost as if they were a single organism. This form of mimicking or movement copycatting is called the chameleon effect, which essentially means you subconsciously start to mimic other physical attributes of the people that you tend to hang around a lot with or you intensively observe. Thus, it's common for yourself to take on the postures, the movements, and other physical behaviors of someone that you have just conversed with or of someone that you are intensively watching and observing over a certain length of time. So you actually end up moving like them or very strikingly similar, like a chameleon blending in with its environment. Now, in that spirit, if you watch how professional runners run, if you watch these runners long enough, you may actually cultivate a very similar running biomechanics to those runners, which can certainly better serve you in terms of improving your biomechanics, making you more well-adjusted to forefoot running. So go check out the runners that I just mentioned to learn from, to see how and what you are doing mechanically to be tailored to run more safely and more correctly when it comes to running form tips. Every little bit helps, and one of these runners that I just mentioned could be the real triggering mechanism that brings you closer to adopting a more optimal forefoot strike running form. For more information on the performance benefits of forefoot running versus the health harming effects of heel strike running, please subscribe to my YouTube channel where you will also learn more about the health benefits of barefoot running as well as the health benefits of minimalist running. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Have fun out there on the roads. Bye for now.